Hi, it's Mayor Walter Sendzik, and welcome back to Our Home with Mayor Sendzik. I just first want to say thank you to your Niagara TV and for their coverage of the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce State of the City address. It was a wonderful evening, and it was made so because I have a guest who's going to be joining us on the first part of the show, who is an investor in our community, someone who has chosen to call St. Catharines Niagara home, and in doing so is bringing to life a lot of business opportunities, not just here in Niagara, but across the country. And so I hope you've had a wonderful February, and we're heading into March. I think February has been a light touch when it comes to wintertime. It's been a pretty soft winter, I would say, which is easy on our winter control budget. And spring is just around the corner. According to Wyerton Willie, I think spring's just a couple weeks away. So I hope you've been enjoying yourself over this winter time. Get ready for a great show. And on the first part of the show, on the second part, we have Rochelle Bush, who's going to be talking about Harriet Tubman Day. And that's a 30th anniversary and some of the exciting events that are coming around that. But before that, Juan Gonzalez. And Juan is the business director of Trinity Capital International. He was born and raised in Colombia, moved to Canada in 2008. You're an economist by trade, I did not?
I am, yes.
That's fascinating.
Went to school for economics.
And what school did you go to?
I went to the Javeriana University in Colombia.
Wonderful. And in 2017, he opened the subsidiary of Trinity Capital, a private investment fund founded by his father. Trinity Capital is in Canada is designed to invest capital into businesses through innovation, sustainability, and people that impact the economy and create value. So, Trinity Capital. The question a lot of people have, because you did an amazing job at the State of the City, I gotta say. And you talked about an award that we're gonna get to in a bit. But more importantly, what I find and what I found even from the State of the City, a lot of people are going, why St. Catharines, why Niagara? So you're from Colombia, could have went anywhere in the world, and yet you chose St. Catharines. Let's start with that. Why St. Catharines?
It's a really good question, and the main question here is why we decided to stay. So on my previous job, I was based in Niagara because I was in the horticultural business, right. And it made sense working with a Dutch company in the greenhouse sector. So it made sense to be in Niagara. Once we decided to open our family investment firm, the question was, where do we go? And the first city that comes up is Toronto. Yeah. It's the big shark tank. Yeah. It's where all the opportunities are. Now, we decided to stay in Niagara. The first reason for us to decide to stay in Niagara was because of the openness by the city economic department.
Wow, great.
We were really amazed because once I started telling my story of what we wanted to do, I have a big project. I had a lot of people looking at me and raising their eyebrows. So you're going to open an office to spend money? How do you make money? And the economic development team was the first one that said, it makes sense. We like what you have in mind. We want to support you. And that for me was a game changer. It really made me think the lifestyle in Niagara is totally worth me having to drive to Toronto, to Kitchener, Waterloo. But now we've found, after 2 years of operating in Niagara, that in terms of opportunities, it also made sense.
Right.
So we chose to stay thanks to you and your team and how open you were and welcoming you were. Now we know for sure that we've made the right decision.
And you're raising a family in Niagara-on-the-Lake, and your brothers have come. I've met two of your brothers that have come in here. Your dad he comes on a fairly and it's funny because you go up to Collingwood, you experience the winter because we don't seem to have winter here, but yeah. Your dad loves as well coming to this community.
We as a family love Canada. I am a proud Canadian. My family, we're all proud Canadians. And that's also another incentive for us to invest in the economy, to create value and make an impact.
So you're an investor. So first and foremost, when you look at your company or an investment company, now your dad's business model is unique because you said this at the State of the City, and I don't want to get it wrong, but at the State of the City you said invest in people's dreams and make them your own, and then all will succeed and make the community prosper. And that's something that you said your dad has taught you.
That's correct. There's many ways to define what we do. Some people call it venture capital. Some people call it private equity. We like to call ourselves a family office. And we do that because we incorporate our family values into our investments. And we also try to invest only and exclusively our family assets and resources. We've done different formulas sometimes where we have co-investors, but we always try to stay within our family. And part of those values is trying to make an impact and trying to support people that might not have a chance to support their own dreams on their own. Mm-hmm. We have been very lucky to be invited by the city for the grant committee. Right. And I've seen the number of great opportunities and great ideas that people are coming up with, and they just don't have the funding to support those.
And that's when you talk about the ecosystem, or the ecosystem of the entrepreneur, where you've got the startup, and then you've got what would be the early phase. You got the incubation, that'd be incubation, and then you have which is ready to go, ready to take off. You're on the runway. So where would you slot in Trinity Capital into that ecosystem of entrepreneurship?
That's a really good question. Trinity Capital has, in fact, 3 big branches. The mother company, which is based out of Colombia, Trinity Capital, that is the umbrella company that covers everything. That is more focused on more traditional businesses, larger transactions, more conservative investments, real estate, manufacturing, mining being one of the biggest one for us. Then we have Trinity Capital International, which is doing somewhere between the seed money and the Series A money. So right before they go to the big investor banks, to Toronto or San Francisco, to the VCs, the Sequoias, etc., we are right there in between. We like to call it the bridge round. Is when you already generated some revenue, but you're not a global company. And that gives us a level of certainty that at least there's a proven concept. There's something that is already there, a product, a prototype. There's the first customer is already there. And then we have a brand new branch that was founded by my youngest brother, Ignacio, and that is Trinity Capital Ventures. And that is going to focus on more early stage businesses. Okay. Again, there's a lot of overlap between the 3 of them, right, and we share a lot of them. I might find an opportunity today that the Trinity, the big company, invests in, and we act as a group, right, always maintaining the family values into our philosophy of investments. So we are 100% for profit, but we like to say that we are for future profit. Yeah. We like to trust these companies at an early stage, hoping to have an exit at some point in the future.
And what's great about that model, and it's an important part of a strong economy, is that you're now part of an angel network, Angel One network, as they call it here in Niagara. And just explain to the folks about Angel Network. So you've got your model, and now you're part of a larger group in terms of like-minded investors. How important is that for Niagara?
We have a very strong group in Niagara, the Niagara Angel Network, and also not too long ago, a few months ago, the 3 big groups from London, Burlington, and Southwestern Ontario got together and formed Equation Angels. So today, Equation Angels is the 2nd largest angel group in Canada, wow, with over 300 check writers. Wow. That for us is extremely important. Having a group of like-minded people that are looking for opportunities at the same stage that we are, it gives us some confidence that is more than just us looking at businesses, and we do a very deep and disciplined due diligence process in order to not guarantee. The stats are totally against us. 60% of startups die within the first 24 to 36 months. Right. And the return of capital to investors is 0. Right. So having those groups as a support system as an investor is extremely important. You get a feeling when a company presents and you get a lot of hands up showing interest, you think, okay, this might be a good idea, even though it might be a sector that I'm not familiar with. Yeah. Let's say health technology, we're coming across a lot of health technologies. Lately, a lot of fintech coming up. So products and new products and services that are disrupting the industries.
Yeah.
So having that group is extremely important. We act as a support group for each other.
And that I gotta say that organization is really doing a lot to generate the next level of economic development in regions like Kitchener-Waterloo, Niagara, London, Cambridge, Guelph. And from there, I want to touch on your Trinity Capital Community Award. So it's a new award that you launched at the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce through the state of the city. Just briefly touch on why did you want to create an award in Niagara?
First of all, we've been working at Trinity and deployed capital already for over 2 years.
Yeah.
We thought that if we launched an initiative with a community approach too early in the process, we didn't have enough strength in our story to build something like this. So in the last few months, we decided to tap into the community and kind of wave our flag strategically by doing something, giving back.
Yeah.
We decided to partner up with the City of St. Catharines and with the GNCC in order to support all these businesses that I told you earlier that we are exposed to that are struggling to just buy that piece of equipment that is going to make a difference in their business. Yeah. It might be a $3,000 piece of equipment that they can't afford that might change the way they do business. The idea behind the award is not to invest and create a global scale company. I was really inspired to see how big of a difference these small capital amounts can make into a family.
Right.
And it's as simple as having the mother working from home and being able to show their kids that it's possible to build your own business and then make a living out of it. Yeah. So we're not trying to build the next unicorn out of this program. We're trying to just, together with the city, because I know the city is also doing a lot, and some other organizations like Venture Niagara and the Enterprise Center, they're doing a lot of these things. We just want to be one new player that supports one or two families or people to build their dream. And I think the timing is perfect for us because we have a story that is strong enough to show that we were serious 24 months ago when people were raising their eyebrows and saying, what are you doing? Today we can show that we have a portfolio of investments. We have invested from Niagara as far as Australia. So this is not a small thing. No. And to be able to show what we do through a community initiative, we thought it was a great strategy.
Well, I have to say, what a story it is. And the story that you're writing, the first chapters of that story here in Niagara. And Trinity Capital is an opportunity for us to go out as a community and show that we're attracting bright young people who are coming into our community, establishing a business, and creating that kind of economic energy that is going to be required. Because I think, as my State of the City we were talking about, there's so much momentum taking place right now, but the momentum is only going to be sustained by, honestly, companies like yours and other entrepreneurs and other like-minded people who are investing, taking risks, and also looking to give back. So absolutely. I just want to say to our listeners, to our viewers, this is a great example of how dynamic St. Catharines and Niagara is becoming. And so, Juan, I look forward to learning more about the successes of the businesses that you're investing in. And on behalf of our community, I want to say thank you for choosing St. Catharines, Niagara to call home. And we're looking forward 10 years out, where you'll be able to point to maybe a unicorn or two, and also be able to just look and say, we've had an opportunity to partner with some other amazing businesses, not just here in Niagara, but from around the world. So we're a truly global economy. Trinity Capital is leading the way. And after the break, we'll have Rochelle Bush come on, and she'll be talking about Harriet Tubman Day, which is coming up in early March. So you don't want to miss it, so stay tuned and come on back. All right, welcome back to Our Home with Mayor Sendzik. And we just had Juan Gonzalez here talking about Trinity Capital and investing in our community. And it's great to see people coming into St. Catharines, calling St. Catharines a home, and investing in businesses that are helping to grow not just our economy here in Niagara, but across Canada. And joining me now is Rochelle Bush. And Rochelle is, I got to say, she is the guru of when it comes to the Harriet Tubman legacy in our community, someone who has created such an important space for people to learn about the legacy of Harriet Tubman, the Underground Railroad, following the North Star, all the things that I think some people forget that St. Catharines was that epicenter for as part of the Underground Railroad. She is the owner and operator of Tubman Tours Canada. She's a freedom seeker descendant, born and raised in St. Catharines, which is awesome, and is deeply rooted in the community. She has taken steps to preserve, promote, and protect Canada's rich Black history, and she created the Harriet Tubman Tour to highlight her time, Harriet's time, in St. Catharines. She is a trustee and historian of Salem Chapel, BME Church, which is over on Geneva Street, a National Historical Site, Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad NHS, and a certified Niagara Tourism Ambassador. She is also a member of the St. Catharines Historical Society and former Emancipation Day organizer. It is an honor to have you on the show. And I got to say, in 2014, I think the city of St. Catharines joined a sister city proclamation, or sister city with its Cambridge, Maryland?
Yes.
And Auburn.
Auburn, New York, yes.
And so how come, what's the legacy of those other two cities?
Tubman was born enslaved in Dorchester County, Maryland.
Yep.
So Cambridge, and then Auburn, New York is where she settled after the Civil War. She purchased the property while she was still in St. Catharines, but after the Civil War, that's where she spent the remainder of her life.
And so in the middle there is St. Catharines.
That's correct. When she was Moses of the Underground Railroad.
So what does that, okay, so Moses, what does that mean?
When she was an Underground Railroad conductor, that was her nickname.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So she was an operative and everybody had a code name.
Okay, so give us a snapshot of Harriet's time in St. Catharines, because it is arguably one of the most important, significant moments for the end of slavery, for the moving of freedom seekers into our country, and she played a central role.
That's correct. So it was actually the height of the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
So Tubman made the decision after the 1850 fugitive slave laws passed that she would move to British soil. And she selected St. Catharines because her associates in Philadelphia, as well as New York City and elsewhere, that's the city that they were connected with, or the town, I should say. So Frederick Douglass, for example, stated in 1881 that the Underground Railroad had many branches, but the one that he was connected with started in Baltimore, then Wilmington, Delaware, then Philadelphia, New York City, Syracuse, then Albany, Syracuse, Rochester, and then, of course, St. Catharines. So he actually put us on the map. So that's one of the reasons why Tubman relocated to St. Catharines. She was revered in the community, and she spent a decade there.
A decade?
Yes.
Wow. And so what was her connection to BME Church?
Records indicate that when she was enslaved, her father was a Methodist. So her father gave an account to William Still, Methodist, the minister was Methodist. Tubman in Philadelphia, after she freed herself, was connected to the AME Church. When she passed on in Auburn, New York, or when she was living there, I should say rather, she was connected with the Thompson Memorial AME Zion, so the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. When she was going on to her glory, so when she was going to die, she bequeathed everything to that church. In St. Catharines, we don't have documentation, solid documentation as to which church she went to, and that's because, unfortunately, in 1957, our parsonage was caught and was set on fire, and the records were burned. We know where she didn't go. Those were the white churches.
Right.
Zion Baptist Church is not claiming her. And if she was a Methodist in all other locations, it stands to reason she would have been a Methodist at that church. Right. And that was an argument 20 years ago, and scholars now stick with that today. So it was a matter of deduction.
Deduction.
Yeah.
And so you organize Tubman Tours Canada.
Yes.
So what is, for the viewer who's looking to see, what is Tubman Tours? What can they expect if they were to go on a tour?
Well, just to back up a little bit, it's actually my third tour company. So started out in 98 here at Tubman Center for Cultural Services. It was in the lower level of the church. Changed that, went to Freedom Seeker Tours. It interfered with a gentleman in Niagara Falls, New York. So it was last summer I decided, you know what, I'm going to change the name. So I made it Tubman Tours Canada because almost 10 years ago, I implemented the Harriet Tubman Trek. Now it's the Harriet Tubman Tour. And that was to shed more light on St. Catharines, because the Freedom Trail, it's pretty much just 2 stops, well, 4. The church, the museum, and then stops at the Anthony Burns gravesite and the Richard Pierpoint site. There's more to that in St. Catharines. So what I did is I incorporated the abolitionist movement, so white loyalists, those who were enslavers as well in Niagara-on-the-Lake, so the loyalists, and I concentrated on white abolitionists. St. George's Church, documentation, Emancipation Day hosts, Queen Street Baptist Church, Silver Spire, the courthouse, so many spots in the downtown core. So for me, because everybody claims, and they've been doing this for years, it's a shared history, why not bring in the white history as well if it's a shared history? Right. And then on top of that, Hiram Wilson was the leading station master or station manager in St. Catharines, and he was a white male.
So what does that mean, station master, for someone who may not know station master?
The agent in the area or the town
where
you would go to. Yeah, the train, or where the freedom seekers were actually settling. So there was always that main person who was connected with the other branches. So on the Eastern Line, when I mentioned what Frederick Douglass had said earlier, he would direct, and so would William Still from Philadelphia, to Hiram Wilson in St. Catharines. And that's what their accounts say.
And so from him to William Hamilton Merritt,
yes.
a lot of folks, he's an abolitionist.
Merritt, yes.
So in terms of what does that mean? What would his role have been?
From the newspaper articles, the black community, for example, Henry Gray, he said that William Hamilton Merritt was the benefactor of the black community. He sold the BME church, it was an AME at the time, the property that the church now stands on for £5. Him and his business partner, William Oliver Phelps. And then, of course, he sold where the black community, the Baptist community, the church where the original Zion Baptist Church stood on Geneva Street. So he was someone that you could go to if you needed assistance or just to communicate with. Wow. And on top of that, he was one of the founding members of the Refugee Slaves Friends Society in 1852 with Elias Adams and, of course, Hiram Wilson. And Tubman became a member. And
so it's interesting because in the history of St. Catharines, he's often associated with the founding of the Welland Canal, the building of the Welland Canal,
yes.
the mercantile sector, yes. Sort of the business built in the downtown. But yes. He's not often associated with the freedom-seeking trail, the Underground Railroad.
That's right. We push it at the church that he was an abolitionist, and I label him Niagara's leading abolitionist. Wow. There's no one else. I don't know of anybody in Niagara-on-the-Lake, Niagara Falls, Fort Erie. Merritt, when there was the Sanford incident in 1837, a black family in St. Catharines was abducted. They were sent to Buffalo, New York, and then they were captured in, and I hate to use that word, in Hamburg, so outside of Buffalo, by the black community, and returned to St. Catharines. Merritt wrote in his diaries that kidnappers, were engaged in a nefarious act. And then his son Thomas rewrote that when he was writing the biography of his father. I get tongue-tied.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, it is. So I would like to see Merritt elevated.
So that's why your tours are so multifaceted, because you bring all aspects.
That's correct.
Of that time period into your tours.
I include the Confederate story as well, because that is an amazing story. So I stick to the time period, and I tell people, I put out a disclaimer, whether they're in the church or on the tour, you had nothing to do with it, it's just historical accuracies. Right. And I find the Confederate story just fascinating, that they were even in the area.
Right.
So I incorporate it all, and it's all shared black history.
Wow. So talking about history, Harriet Tubman Day, March 7th is the 30th anniversary. Yes. So 30 years ago, who declared Harriet Tubman Day? Was it a national or provincial?
It is only municipal.
Only a municipal.
It's federal in the United States. So that's George H. Bush. Yeah. It's federal to the sense where you just celebrate the day. It's not a holiday. No. But here it was Mayor Joe McCaffrey.
Wow, Mayor Joe.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes. So you'd think that I would think the province would also be looking at this as a signature day. But
that would
regardless,
be great.
I think it's something we should push for on the 30th anniversary. What is planned for the day for the 30th anniversary of Harriet Tubman Day?
It's a tribute to her. Okay. So people will come out, say a few words about her. We'll have musical guests, and others will, have some poetry readings
And it's taking place where?
at the church.
At the
So
church.
Salem Chapel BME Church, 92 Geneva Street.
And it's interesting because that when you talk about the church, it's going through some renovations. CHCH was there, and they were
Yes.
talking about the stairs. Is there?
Yes.
Do you think there's going to be something under the stairs when they get renovated? Do you?
I hope so. Maybe under the stairs or the plank boards up in the balcony. So my uncle used to tell a story where, when he was younger, they would hide pieces of paper in between. And a couple of months ago, when we were lifting some plank boards, we found some old newspaper pieces. But I would like to know what else is under there. Wow. Because we've found, notes. There was one by a Gertrude Thompson. She happened to be a Harriet Tubman descendant. And it was an argument when she was a teenager. So about 19 years old, she's fighting with her husband. Okay, and it's just remarkable. But we can't put it on display because there's some foul words in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, speaking of your uncle, so your maternal great-great-grandfather was the minister in charge of the Salem Chapel for a period of time when Harriet was a member.
That's correct.
So your history goes way back.
Yes. Deeply rooted in the community. So my family, the Harper side of my family, was actually here when the second church existed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is. So when you look at the renovations that are required, it's a National Historic Site.
Yes.
And what I want to do is shine a light not just on the Harriet Tubman Day, but also the needs of the church itself. So what kind of renovations need to take place?
Right
you,
now,
you attract a lot of buses. Like that. Well, the church attracts a lot of folks into that, and it's not a big church.
no, but it's a sacred destination.
Yeah.
Because people want to go and see where, famous individuals worshiped. No different than they would the Wesley Chapel in the UK.
Yeah.
Or, the Bethel Church, Mother Bethel in Philadelphia, where Bishop Allen was. But with the renovations, we just want a few minor repairs done right now. So it's the gable, the staircase, a few plank boards, because there's concerns with safety.
Yeah.
So with the plank boards, some are 1.5 inches wide. You don't want anybody or a female more or less, to get their heel stuck. That bottom level step, you don't want anybody to step on it and then it breaks and then, they injure themselves. And there's windowsills. They're badly deteriorated. But we'll have a surplus left over because we don't need the cable straps. We had engineers and architects tell us that, one primarily. So after that, it's all about accessibility.
Okay.
Yes.
So if someone were to donate and they wanted to help with the renovations, where would they go?
Well, we've shut down the first part of the GoFundMe, but if they still want to donate, you can always send a check to the church. Greatly appreciated. Our treasurer would issue a tax receipt. But it's going to begin again in September because we're worried about that accessibility.
All right. So, folks, March 7th is Harriet Tubman Day here in St. Catharines. They have a number of events planned at the church. I hope to see you out there. You can go to the website to check out the timing of the events. And Rochelle, you are a treasure here in our community. You're doing so much to enrich our lives through the history that you're able to share. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Until the next show, take care, have a wonderful March, and we'll see you as we go along this journey that we're on. Take care.